You are now listening to The Backcourt. I am one of your hosts, Lucas Kaplan. I write for NetsDaily. I've covered the Nets for a good little while now, but my co-host is a woman who really needs no introduction. If you know what the Brooklyn Nets are, if you really have ever consumed anything from the NBA, you certainly know who this woman is, and that is Sarah Kustok, color commentator on Yes Network for the Nets, a true legend of the game. And Sarah, how are you doing?
Oh, amazing, Lucas. I get to rock with you. We're getting ready to start a Brooklyn Nets season. I couldn't be better. I'm here in Atlanta, so we're ready to kick things off on what is sure to be a really fun and interesting Nets season.
Absolutely. I am back here in New York, getting ready to cover a parade, by the way, the New York Liberty.
Yes, you are. Yes, and congratulations to you as well. Tremendous coverage all W season long of your newest WNBA champion, Liberty.
Thank you.
That was incredible.
Yeah, did you watch Game 5?
I did. I was actually in San Francisco, doing some sit downs with the Warriors. One of those being Steph Curry, who we know the relationship and the fan that he is of Sabrina Ionescu. So got to talk to him a little bit before the game, and yeah, so I was sitting in the airport and got to watch it, and it was unbelievable. The whole final, I mean, truly the whole season and the postseason. I don't need to tell these listeners because I'm sure they were locked in as well. But you thought that it was going to be an exciting series, and I know you were there for every moment of it. But it certainly lived up to the billing.
Absolutely, and as you know, two of us have been in the Barclays Center. You since its inception. You know, me pretty much every day for the last 2 years. It was awesome to see 19,000 fans waving seafoam towels. Just a great time, and I'm sure this week will be a great time celebrating here in the city. And for Nets fans, you know, we're really excited to do this podcast. It's going to come out every Wednesday throughout the season. You know, we'll have you covered, and I'm really excited to talk Nets. You know, to give the listeners just an idea, you know, what are you excited for about this podcast? Why should listeners listen to it other than the fact that, you know, it's us two talking about the Nets?
Well, Lucas, I'm thrilled to get to break things down, look at things, give greater insight about what's happening both on the floor, off the floor with this Brooklyn Nets team, because you've been covering them, writing them. I know intently watching them for so many seasons myself as well. I came here to cover the Nets when they moved to Brooklyn, and I think we've seen a whole iterations of what this team looks like, the vision, the goals at this point of the year. And I think there's a lot to be enthusiastic about. I know it's a young bunch. I know it's a rebuilding group, but the characters, the core, I got to sit through training camp practices, watch what Jordi Fernández and this really great coaching staff that has been put together is all about. And I know that I'm always very passionate about what things will look like because we love basketball. But I think when fans of the Nets get to really see and hear the nuances, I think it'll be something that'll be interesting. And I know that's what me and you are going to do throughout the course of this year is really try and dig in deep to some of the more intimate details of what we see.
Definitely. And you mentioned it's an interesting year. This really is like the first year of you mentioned there's been a lot of different iterations of this team. This is the first year of this, whatever this becomes. And you know, it seems like the fans know that, are excited for this. By the way, where were you on the night of the Mikal Bridges Rockets two trades, you know, within 30 minutes?
Where was it? Remind me the date.
Sometime. Okay, it was June 25th, and I know that.
How am I like blanking my life? I need my calendar I don't have it.
I only ask because it was the fourth quarter of the Commissioner's Cup between the Liberty and the Lynx with like 5 minutes left in a tie game, and everyone on press row, because they know I cover the Nets, is like, "Yo, Lucas, like you might want to look at this." So I was very mad at the Nets and the organization for doing that to me in that moment. However,
it always happens that way. Wait, I can't believe that I really blanked on where I was at in that moment. I think I was in the country. I don't know what I was doing or where I was at. But it's a change.
Yeah,
it's a shift.
It definitely.
And I know we'll dig deeper into it. And there's a lot of layers involved, but I think the direction of where this team is headed, what they want to do, getting those picks back, the future of what things can look like in the building blocks and the pieces of who they have on the team right now, some evaluation that can continue to take place this year, and then what things look like in terms of draft picks, in terms of salary cap room. All of those things bring a lot of optimism in a whole.
Certainly. I was on the platform of the Long Island Railroad at like 1:30 in the morning, leaving that game, calling people like, "Oh my God, you would not believe what's going down in my life right now."
I think it's one of those things. It's like you're checking Twitter. You're like, "Are these real sources?
Yeah.
Am I getting caught by inaccurate information?"
Yeah, no, it's hardening me into a more media literate journalist. So that's good. And that's a great transition to the first thing I want to talk about, which is like this new outlook. And I have a Sean Marks quote here from his, not media day, but late September, introductory presser with Jordi Fernández. And he talked about our goal is the same every year. It's to go out there and compete at the highest level, no matter what the stakes may be, no matter what's being put in front of you. We have to go establish an identity through that. And from our side, we're looking at it from a perspective of who are the next Nets? Who do we look at and say, okay, this person can be part of this rebuild, and this person is on the team for the foreseeable future? That to me is, the key quote if you were setting up this season, what it's all going to be about. And, my basketball background a little bit is in player development. I love that. I'm excited to dig into the weeds, but I think we would both agree, like, that's what this year is about. And that's what's so exciting. Like, who is part of the long-term core? And these guys all have a chance to prove themselves, I would think.
Yeah, they have a chance to prove themselves. And I also think you can look at a lot of players with motivation and reasons for that, whether it's the 8 individuals on the rosters that are on expiring deals, whether it's the handful that are looking to extend off of rookie contracts. But more than anything, I say this again, having been around, seeing those early days of training camp, watching the hours of practice, these individuals are here for a reason. And you cannot ever overlook what it takes to actually be on an NBA roster. And so they're competitive, and players don't go out there looking to do anything, especially what I've seen is to compete. And Jordi Fernández, with his first opportunity as a head coach in the NBA, his coaching staff and what he's compiled with so many winners in the resumes that they bring to the table, it's been accountability. It has been so much, I feel like, just really a spirit that has shown that they understand that building habits are just as important. So yeah, wins and losses, but I do think, every season, Lucas, we know this, there's different types of evaluations, and sometimes it comes with the win-loss column, sometimes it comes with competing for a championship, and other times it's about what culture are you establishing, what identity are you establishing, and what are you trying to look to be in a league? Because we can look at players like a Jalen Wilson and a Noah Clowney, what they want to become, what Nick Claxton hopes to be as a part of this core. Again, the list can kind of go on. Like, you can't tell me whether Cam Johnson is in trade rumors or what the situation is. He is, same with Dorian Finney-Smith, like, he is a consummate professional. And anytime he steps on the floor in any capacity, practice, getting a run in, or in a game situation, they are going to bring the highest level of competitiveness and of understanding what it means to be a team. And so that's why I'm very curious to see how that balance of young players, of veterans, of those who are looking for their second chance, and Zaire Williams, how that kind of all builds and comes to fruition is something to me that can be a really beautiful thing to monitor and watch.
You absolutely read my mind, because I was going to ask, what is a successful season for this team? But I think, you kind of covered it right there. 2 anecdotes. I saw Dorian Finney-Smith dive on the floor in a preseason game, and I saw Cam Johnson just shoot 14 threes and score 30-something points. Veterans in a preseason game. So I think that says it all right there. Just stylistically, a little bit more granular, what do you notice about the Jordi Fernández Nets after you've watched, 4 preseason games? What, I guess, stands out to you?
They want to play fast.
Yeah.
It's going to be about pace. It's going to be about tempo. That's one in the full court. But it's also in the half court. how you move the basketball, how you're cutting, the nuances of how you're playing within that free flow type of play. We know what the NBA has evolved into. It's evolved into a 3-point shooting league. So you better believe they're going to get up a lot of 3-point shots, and do so with trying to not just get the quantity, but the quality of those looks. And I think with all things, especially a team like this that knows they have to scrap and knows in many ways, when you're looking at lineups top to bottom, that there may be situations that they're a little undermanned. You're not going to be able to run, and you're not going to be able to play fast if you're not getting stops and you're not getting rebounds. And I think that's one thing, with Nick Claxton being out for the pretty much entirety of the preseason, though he will be available in the opener against Atlanta. But missing a day run, missing some of that size, you've seen some optionality in smaller lineups. And so I think that's an area of focus. But whether transition defense, whether it's locking down on that end, I think it's something that you're going to see a type of pressure. You're going to see this team pick it up full court. You're going to see this team gambling and trying to create an identity at that end. And in doing so at that end, if that continues to evolve, that will allow them then to offensively to play the way they want to. On the flip side of things at the other end.
100%. Did you see the Dennis Schroeder quote the other day? And will you be able to guess if I tell you it's my favorite quote of the preseason?
There's one that I saw that I don't know if this is it, but it was him talking about Jordi Fernández as being the European coach.
There you go. You got it. He said, for those that don't know, he said, European coaches are pretty crazy, but I'm also crazy, so it's a great match. For me, covering the team, I love that we have a European coach. Europeans, pretty blunt, pretty direct, They're not going to dress it up.
I'm glad you said. I didn't want to.
I love
sometimes
it.
when you paraphrase a quote, things get jumbled. So Lucas, I'm glad you had the words for that, because I don't want anything to ever come back of me calling anyone crazy. Though I would also do so on a positive. Jordi's awesome. It has been absolutely fantastic. I am a lover of this game. I've been playing it since I can remember. So my greatest moments don't often come in like the big electric crowds of the environment of incredible games. Sitting in a practice gym, watching, just watching the uniqueness and the different ways in which coaches resonate with players, how they teach, how they go about things. And I don't say this because this is a Nets podcast. I don't say this because this is a team I call games for. I have been really blown away with just the way in which Jordi Fernández and his coaching staff are able to effectively communicate with this team, that it resonates. It seems to get the best out of them at this point, but also doing so, as I mentioned, the word accountability. And you could tell, granted, this is his first head coaching job in the NBA, but as we know, we saw him coach Team Canada, in the Olympics and FIBA, at the World Championships last year. He's been in different places, whether it's with the Canton Charge and the G League. He's been coaching since he was a teenager. So you could see that presence and the level of comfort that he has in that role. So that's another thing to watch. Like I'm really interested to see how he continues to grow and to evolve and what that looks like. But no doubt that he's got a brilliant personality. He does bring that flavor. You can some time to talk to him. I want to pick his brain about all the countries in Europe and where to go and what to eat, what music to listen to. But it's it is that love of the game that you could tell, and the love of how to teach it and how to coach it, that to me has really stood out early on.
Definitely. I mean, like the Noah Clowney example, he got out-rebounded by Andre Drummond of all people, so very understandable in the third game against the Sixers. And
that's never happened to anyone, right?
No. But Jordi said, he's got to have a little more fight. Like he's got to do this and that, and there is room to be better, even though that's such a Herculean task, especially for the type of player, the wiry figure that Noah Clowney has. Next game, he comes out, he plays a lot better. He plays hard. He makes you can tell he's learning the game with Noah. Like you can tell there are just little things like, oh, okay, this slip is open. Okay, two guys went here. Like these plays on the margins, he executed them in the fourth game against the Raptors, and Jordi was like, that's exactly what I want to see. It's exactly how he responded. Stylistically, my note is that it's obviously a comparable situation to when Kenny Atkinson took over. And in those early years of that era, Kenny would talk about shot quality and generating threes, and it was in the same sort of way that Jordi has talked about it so far, which makes a lot of sense. Process comes before the results. That was a lot of high pick and roll, spread offense, give D'Angelo Russell, give Karras, Dinwiddie the ball. Jared Allen's going to roll downhill. It really reflected, that what the NBA was and was becoming at that time. This is a little bit more ball movement, side to side, big man in the middle, hub, actions, handoffs, backdoor cuts. And that's going to be fun for me. And it leads me to our next section, which is one net you're really excited to see play early on. And because of all that, mine is Nick Claxton, because I just have been such a fan of his. He's such a unique player. The combination of like agility, hand-eye coordination, defense, is just a really unique player. And I'm really excited to see him in that system with a little more offensive creativity. The guy played point guard at Georgia when he was in college. That is one player, like in the first few weeks, few months, whatever, I'm like, okay, he's just going to be a really unique watch. So I was wondering, if you kind of felt the same way. I'm sure you do.
I absolutely do. And I think too, just him continuing to grow into the veteran player on this team. And it's amazing how fast time goes that's a situation that you're at. But just also signing the extension, kind of comfort of knowing that this is a place where he's going to be and a part of this core that this team wants to build. So when it comes to us talking about, okay, what type of foundation is going to be laid, what type of he's a major part of that. So without a doubt. And I also think too, when you look at some of the fits of those around, he offers so much, whether it's the help on the defensive end and shoring up some gaps, and beat a Band-Aid in a lot of places offensively. You had talked about it, but his ability to it, he loves to do it and talks about when he was a point guard, playing a or at least running the show when he was at Jordan. But all of those things really benefit who he is playing fast. I too, and this probably is a cheat because I'm going to give you kind of three players.
Awesome.
But those that I'm curious, I think in so many ways we're going to continue to see Nick Claxton, between Schroeder, Ben Simmons, by all accounts, looks so healthy. And it'll be fun to hope for that for him as a basketball player, but also how that looks. Dorian, Cam Johnson, Cam Thomas, obviously we'll have an eye on. But Noah Clowney, Jalen Wilson, and Zaire Williams, to me, are a trio of what it looks like for them as they take another step in responsibility in more playing time here at the NBA level. And Zaire, a little bit different situation than Jalen and Noah. But all three of those players, I'm really excited to see how they're going to continue to be able to flourish and do so. That's why seasons like this, they're fun, especially for me to watch players like this, and I'm sure you feel the same, Lucas, because there's a little bit more leeway. And it's not to say that there won't be accountability, but there's a little bit more freedom to play freely and make some mistakes and do so in a way that I think those players have so much potential that is untapped to this point that I really am excited to see what this looks like for them getting such extended time and extended runs within the course of this rotation.
Definitely. And like Jalen Wilson, I tweeted some clips the other day. He just made so many like correct fundamental plays.
I want to start if it's not already, the Jalen Wilson fan club.
Yeah.
And you could ask anyone on Yes and Do This. I started this last season. Keep going, but he is always in the right
spot,
place.
and he just knows how to play. And it's like sometimes you can kind of get lost in the older prospect should return more immediately, like more physically ready, and all that is true. But also like he hasn't played his second year of NBA basketball, and he's doing this. No matter his age and physique, it's really impressive, and you can see him like back cutting when it's there and like attacking closeouts, and he's a willing shooter, and you know he's going to give you great effort. Not that these other guys won't, but Jalen Wilson was probably the, for me, in terms of quality of play, the standout guy of the preseason, and he was rewarded with a start in his last preseason game. And when we asked Jordi about it, he said, yeah, this is a reward because of how he's played, because of how he's shown up. So that shows you right there the line of accountability and freedom. Like, you got to earn it, but if you're doing the right things, it's not that you can't make mistakes, but if you're doing the right things, like, you know, you are going to get opportunity on this team. And that is kind of the ethos of what we're getting at, like why we're excited to cover this team.
And Lucas, the last thing I'll say about him, and I just think in general about the NBA, and I know you've seen this with so many players throughout the course of watching the league, I think a hugely challenging thing to do is to be adaptable to the role you're needed on a night-by-night basis. And I think we saw that last season. He's able to go to the G League and put up nearly 40 points and go whatever 8 of 11, or I'm going to undersell his shooting, but be the guy. And then the next night be like, you're going to come in and play maybe 13 minutes, and we need you to defend your butt off and rebound and set amazing screens and run super hard. And he does it so flawlessly, and we continue to see that I think any professional player that I see is able to do that, I am so impressed with, because it's just an understanding of role, and it's starring in your role no matter what that is. And I think for any team to have players like that is key.
I had to just look it up. There is my favorite quote of the draft cycle this past year.
I love all your quotes, Lucas. Now I'm going to start like quizzing you on all the quotes.
Please do. I don't want to spoil anything.
We're going to start having a segment of who said this. I'm going to give you 3 options.
That would make my day. Yes.
Listeners, get ready. We got good things in store.
Okay. Well, this one is my favorite, and you'll love this. So the Thunder selected Dylan Jones this year out of Weber State. At pick 26. Point being, he's a guy that's going to come in and like play a role and whatever, but he was like the guy. He was the man in college. And they asked him about that transition, and he said, being the guy helped me understand what a guy would need from me. And that's a great quote, and it's very applicable to Jalen Wilson, I think. And I love that he gets to go down to the G League and last year and be the guy at Kansas and like take a lot of shots. And doing that while playing the right way, you can see that translate into he understands what a guy would need from me. And
great quote.
That's a great quote.
Because I'm writing that in my notebook. Thank you for that.
That really is a great quote. And it's funny, in our outline, I was like, okay, give me, a player that you're excited for. You'll go first. I have 2 just in case we pick the same one. And then I got so excited about Nick Claxton that I just jumped the ship. However, Sarah came in with 3, outdid me. Outdid me.
I didn't mean to.
No.
Like that was a cheat.
I messed up and you saved me, dude. And that. So now we're recording this on Tuesday. The Nets season opener is Wednesday. Sarah's in Atlanta. And as we look at like, okay, we're gonna go on a game by game basis. We're gonna get all this film to review. I thought this would be a fun question to ask and like just revisit and see if we were right how this plays out. You get the box score after the game. What is the one stat, the one area that you look at and say, okay, the Nets executed Jordi's principles. I feel like they probably are proud of this effort tonight. What are you looking at?
I think, as you know, there's stats can be deceiving, but also stats can be really telling. Yeah. And there's really important ones. So there's probably a few that we could look at. Yeah. But to me, early on, I would say for both teams, turnovers. Because I think for any team that you're trying to get things working on offense, we talked about 3-point shooting, looking to create a fluidity. You can't give up possessions and you can't give up easy points. So I think taking care of the ball, always, valuing those possessions and doing so becomes very, very important, because that's what allows teams, especially I'm talking about Atlanta, like Atlanta's a team that has really stocked up on defenders. Yep. And that has always been a vulnerability to them. It's always been, they're going to score a ton, but they're going to give up a ton. That is not the case this season. With a few additions that they made and how they've looked, I should say, to this point in the preseason. And on the flip side of things, that's been something that has been emphasized about defensive pressure, both on the ball, in the passing lanes, for this Jordi Fernández team. Lucas, you've been covering this team for a long time. I've been covering this team for a long time. That's not been an area where they've picked up easy points. They've not been a team to create a ton of havoc on the defensive end and creating opponent turnovers, getting a ton of points off those. And I think that is intended to be something this season that the team will try and do. And whether that's in the full court, the half court, mixing things up. And so I'm going to be curious. I don't know if it's going to be the most telling stat of the game, but I'm going to be really curious to see that area, how that plays out on both sides tomorrow night.
That really was mine. Turnovers, because I mean, if we're talking about the specific Atlanta game, you let Trey and Dyson Daniels and Jalen Johnson run the floor, they'll put up 1 million points in transition because of the passing and how athletic they are. And also, Jordi talks about shot quality all the time. You got to get him up. And if the turnovers will be a good bellwether of like how he's been able to implement his offensive structure. In the Philly game, especially the third one of the preseason, you could see there were moments like on ball reversals, on cuts, whatever, where the timing and spacing was like 5% off and there was a turnover or just like an opportunity that could have been capitalized on that wasn't. And so I think the turnovers is where you'll see that show up. I guess my backup one was, this is a little like, it relies on a lot of other things. As you said, stats can be deceiving, but opponent 2-point percentage. So I get the box score. I look at the threes and the field goals, and then I do a little math in my head. It doesn't always work out, but I'm ready to ask a question. I'm like doing math. I sometimes stutter in my opening question. However, the Raptors game, that stretch in the second quarter, it's like you gotta provide some resistance on the way to the rim. You gotta like be solid at the point of attack, or else you won't be able to impose that defensive activity. Like if you're always in rotation and you're always flying around, then you'll get some deflections, but you're not imposing your will. And so are they preventing, I should say, a bunch of easy twos? That's my backup one.
I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out, and I appreciate your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
And knowing that you could do quick math in your head. Math used to be my best subject and my strongest. I was like set to go into business and be like an accountant or do finance or something. And now watch me potentially once every few games, I'm tossing a break and trying to do the math in my head to say what the Nets are up, and I get the math wrong. So
it happens. You got a little bit more pressure on you when you're watching the Nets game than I do, from my couch or from the media room. By the way, wearing a Yankees hat, that's how I learn math. Read the box scores. Guy is 2 for 5. I'm like, oh, that's 40%.
Let's go. Wait, are you're a Yankees fan, right?
You don't even, yeah. I've lost years off my life covering the Liberty and being like a diehard Yankees fan in the last. I was looking around for a poster. It's on the other side of my room.
I got a lot of friends out in LA, so we got a lot of text chains.
Not for the next
now.
2 weeks. You don't. They're not your friends for the next 2 weeks.
Exactly.
All right. So we will end. And also, by the way, shout out to my Mets fans out there. It's like,
absolutely.
For me, it's all love.
Absolutely.
They had a great year. However, 27 rings. So we're going to end with some trivia. Your first year covering the Nets, being around the team, is the year Barclays opened, 2012-13 season. For 1 point, what was the starting lineup on opening night of your first season?
Oh, Darren Williams, Joe Johnson.
Correct.
Brooke Lopez.
Correct.
Gerald Wallace.
Correct.
Chris Humphries.
Correct. All right, that is 1 point. I thought you would get that. It was good. You got it quick.
Oh, that felt tougher than. But okay.
All right. This one is harder, and I don't think I would have gotten it. What were the 4 players that came off the bench that night to play real minutes.
Marchand Brooks.
Correct.
Well, it's Marshall Nolly. Give me a second.
Okay.
Give me a little bit. Keith Bogans.
Keith Bogans played like 1 or 2 minutes at the end. So I'll give you that does count.
Was CJ Watson on that team?
Correct. Leading points and minutes getter off the bench.
So I got 2. So there's 2 more I got to get?
There's 2 more, and the hints are they are nominally power forwards of that era and extremely different.
Reggie wasn't on that team, right?
Reggie was.
Was it Reggie?
It was Reggie's 1. And then 12-year-old Lucas Kaplan's all-time favorite. Not all-time, but one of them. Just a joy to watch. Pure Hooper energy.
I feel like I'm going to be so mad.
You are. You're going to be so mad.
I'm probably going to be like, he was my favorite too. Give me a little clue.
Okay.
Is he also?
Yeah.
Not Andre Blatch.
Andre Blatch. Man, how could you ever?
It's funny. Yeah. It's funny that's the clue that got me. I have a lot of friends of that time that would come to visit that played other sports. They had always they're like, could we get a Blatch jersey? I'm like, I would offer anyone, and they're like, no, we just love. I feel like he really, wow.
I can picture him facing up.
He's not still playing in the Philippines, is he?
Oh man, I'm gonna look it up right now. I know he was recently, and he was nationalized. He's American Filipino.
Wow.
He is.
Lucas, it feels like just yesterday.
It does feel like just yesterday. I think he's very recently stepped away from the game, but he had one hell of a career. I can picture him facing up from 18 feet, getting half a step to the basket, and then choosing to snatch it back and cash a 16-footer.
That was a 48-win season?
That was, I do believe that was the 48-win season. Oh man, I should have been more prepared. 49.
49. Okay.
49.
No, you shouldn't have. This is perfect. This is great.
That was
this
great.
Is great.
Man, that was an all-timer.
I can't wait for
Yeah, we're starting on a high note with the trivia. This has been the first episode of the Backcourt. I feel like we're off to a pretty strong start, and boy, NBA basketball is back. Brooklyn Nets basketball is back. I am so excited, and I'm excited for this podcast. I'm excited to rock with Sarah and all of you guys for the whole season. Sarah, do you have any parting thoughts?
No, just keep listening. Lucas, I'm thrilled for this. We're going to have a blast. And to all the listeners, send in if they have questions, if there's questions, if there's ways we can continue to bring the content that listeners want. That's what we're here for. Hit me up on Twitter. I'm on there way too often. We'll certainly do some mailbags. I might just respond to you on Twitter anyway. Or I should say X. I'm sorry, everybody. Episodes every Wednesday. Every Wednesday, that's what we're going to do. The Nets film focuses will continue. And looking forward to the season, guys. Thank you all.